not entertained. All right, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk edition of Are You Not Entertained podcast. And today we are doing 5 of our favorite best film trilogy. In light of the recent news that Avatar is the highest grossing film trilogy to date. There's 2 more films that's supposed to come, so that would take it out of a trilogy. But hey, it had me thinking like, damn, what are some great or nice film trilogies we all enjoy? So today we're going to break them down and share them with you. Let's get into it. This is my pick, and this is, I don't know if you all know, I'm a hardcore Batman fan, and Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, truly wonderful. I mean, there were good Batman movies beforehand, kind of, with Michael Keaton, but then you had
Batman
the
with the
George
nipples.
Clooney. Yeah, you had the George Clooney with the nipples. You had Val Kilmer's, My Feelings and all this. Tommy Lee Jones kind of played in Joker. Oh, I'm sorry, not Joker. Two-Face. Decent Two-Face, but it was just, they weren't taken seriously. And then Batman Begins came out, and it was dark. It was contained. I fucking loved it. Then the Piece de Resistance, Dark Knight. There is no one in the history of cinema, no film buff who watches movies, does not know the Dark Knight movie. This is the movie that set Heath Ledger's career and then also ended it. He passed away after this role. But it's because of him. Anyone that dons the moniker the Joker, they have a huge high bar to set and huge boots to fill. And to
they
this
don't
day,
meet.
they have not been. No one has measured up to him. And it's come to a point, people are like, yo, stop casting Jared Leto in films because he's just not doing it right. Now, I will admit, The Dark Knight Rises, the third film, that was a little, at least in my eyes. But I get where he was going. And the comeback story, I will admit, Christian Bale, some people think he is not the greatest Batman. To me, I'm like, y'all smoking that stuff because he did a great job. It was reported that that deep voice he did that on his own. That was not edited. That was not a soundbite, anything. He did that on his own through the film. And each film transition between a focus on each villain, and I just loved it. This was one of my, like I said, one of my all-time favorites. My wife owns this on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray. I am a huge Batman fan, and this was my first pick. Trice, what are your remnants and feelings and memories of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy?
Yeah, so when we was going through trilogies, I let my cousin go through his picks first, and he already had picked Batman, which was pretty top on my list, so I had to remove it. But yeah, the trilogy is great. Chef's kiss. It did very, very well. It had a very much cultural impact, and it brought Batman back from being kind of a laughingstock and an afterthought. So these Batman movies really did. Cause I remember being young watching the Clooney with the nipples with the girl and with Robin, and then old boy I'll Be Back being the Iceman dude, and what's the name from Liar Liar being the joke. I remember all that as a kid, watching that as a kid, and I just wasn't interested in those Batman movies, honestly. I know I might get some flack, but as a young kid watching those who really didn't understand anything about what was a good superhero movie, I was like, okay. But when I saw these when I got older, I was like, oh, this is good. This is some good shit. So I hold this trilogy very, very, very high, and I have high regards. And baby Christopher ain't missed yet with me. I don't know a movie that he made that I didn't enjoy. Yeah, Batman trilogy, especially with old guy playing the Joker, I hold him and his performance in such high regard. I know Phoenix had his moment with the Joker, but outside of that, I have not enjoyed a Joker that's been in these more recent Batman films, and I'm just going to be honest in that, just because I just hold the Joker from this series in so high regard. So, and probably nobody is ever going to touch that performance ever in my mind, and I can already say yes, I'm very biased, but he did such an amazing job, and it's unfortunate with his undue passing after the movie. But yeah, Batman, good shit. All 3 good. Can kind of say the third one kind of was like, eh. And all in all, good fucking movies. If you haven't seen them, go out and see them. They are definitely worth your time and watching.
Absolutely. And I find it funny that's how you remember the lesser Batman films with the nipples and Jim Carrey. But
Yeah, Jim
my
Carrey.
cousin is not lying. My cousin is not lying. Before Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and I'm going to keep reiterating that because I'm a fan of his work, Batman was kind of like a mockery. If it wasn't for the animated show and the animated DC things,
Yeah,
his movies
yeah,
were just
yeah.
kind of, superhero movies had a bad reputation before the coming of age, however you want to call it, of these films. They set a serious tone. I also want to shout out too, these movies were filmed in Chicago. And I want to let that be known because a lot of people think of Gotham as synonymous with New York. And I just want to say this, downtown Chicago shot at the right angles, and in certain parts of it, you could not distinguish it from New York. And some people have always thought, I'm like, no. I'm gonna let you know right now. The infamous hospital explosion scene, that was Chicago. You can look dead at the shot and see a CTA. That stands for Chicago Transit Authority. Everything ain't in New York. But absolutely, yes, this is a huge, huge favorite of mine. And it's sad because we probably won't get any more good Batman films for a while. Michael Keaton is old and settling down, and Christian Bale has come out and saying he will not do anything Batman or anything superhero more unless Christopher Nolan is attached to it. Christopher Nolan has already said he has moved on from this and is doing his own thing. He does not want to be tied to a pre-established lore or anything. But hey, time will tell. But move on to the next one.
All right, so this was one of my first picks. This goes in no particular order. This is not from best to worst or worst to best. So just keep that in mind. These are just as we just want to talk about them. But the Matrix trilogy follows Neo, a hacker who discovers that the world he knows is actually a computer simulation called the Matrix, created by Sentinel machines and to control humanity, guided by rebels like Morpheus and Trinity. Neo learns to blend the rules of the simulated world and confronts both the opposition system and his own destiny as the one. The sequel expanded the war between humans and machines, introduced at the last human city of Xeon, and explored deeper mental and external reality themes and about choice, control, and reality. So Matrix 1 came out in 1999. The Matrix Reloaded is 2002. And I don't know if this is a typo, but the Matrix Revolutions came out in 2023, 2003 as well. I did want to point out cultural impact. The original Matrix reshaped mainstream cinema and pop culture. It introduced iconic visuals like bullet time and red pill versus blue pill metaphors, and influenced not just action films but sci-fi storytelling and deep mental discussions about technology, free will, and the nature of reality. Box office performance, the first Matrix did 467 million worldwide on a $63 million budget. So it was a fucking box office hit. Now people be like, "Oh, that's not $1 billion." Listen, this is 1999. Movie tickets was probably like $4. Doing $1 billion was not kind of realistic back then. So keep that in mind. Everything is relative. The Matrix Reloaded did 741 million globally. Became in one of the highest grossing R-rated films of its time. Matrix Revolutions did 427 million worldwide, but together as a trilogy, it did $1.6 billion, which was a huge success. Now, I want to touch on something too about the Matrix that a lot of people doesn't realize when they're watching it, or maybe they just in the subliminals like I was. Because when I later grew up and found out about this, I was like, what? But the Matrix had a very religious and spiritual messaging throughout all the films. Neo was a messiah figure. Neo is framed very clearly as Christ-like savior. You know, he is referred to as the one. He performed miracles like stopping bullets and reincarnation, sacrifices himself to save humanity, dies and is reborn. Even his name Neo, referred to as the one and the son of man. Rebirth, salvation, and all that. Across the Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolution, characters are reportedly reborn, live in the past, re-entering the Matrix. Salvation comes through awakening, not violence alone. Neo's final act is a self-sacrifice to restore balance. violence. This mirrors Christianity ideas of redemption through sacrifice. And Buddhism references the trilogy also leans heavily into those different religions as well. Reality is an illusion. Enlightenment comes from letting go of fear and ego. Neo doesn't win by force, he wins by understanding the system. The idea isn't destroy evil, but restore balance. Another thing that it touches, the world is a false construct. Hidden knowledge frees humanity. The machines act like false gods. True salvations come from knowing the truth, not blind faith. Red pill is essentially forbidden knowledge. Xeon, the last human names like Trinity, Morpheus, and Oracle are all spiritual loaded names. The architect represents the code, God-like demeanor and representation. The Oracle represents intuition, faith, and prophecy. So what's the point? The trilogy isn't preaching one religion. It's asking what is real. Is the choice real or an illusion? Is salvation found through belief, knowledge, or sacrifice? It intentionally mixes Christianity, Buddhism, and other like religions and asking these questions to the viewer. So, like I said, I did not know none of that shit was a thing when I was young. I think I was really, really, really young when my mom and my friends and my uncle, because they was ones taking me to the movies back then. I didn't realize none of that because I was like, I'm like 8 years old maybe at most when I saw these movies, and I was just like, oh, it's a bunch of cool shit. He up here freezing, he up here dodging bullets by leaning back. Shit looks fucking awesome. Then as I got older, I realized like, oh, there's deeper messaging that I just didn't pick up on. But Matrix trilogy, and I know there's another one after this. I don't give a fuck about that. I do not condone or acknowledge that movie. They really did shake up movies at its time, and it's very much regarded as A to Z well-told story, well-told, relatable story for Neo, and a lot of people can understand the struggles that he went through over these 3 movies. But yeah, Matrix top tier, baby, chef's kiss, and I ain't got nothing really bad to say about the trilogy. Like, only thing bad is that fucking movie they try to make after this, and I was just like, what are we doing? But other than that, chef's kiss, baby. You got anything to say about the Matrix trilogy?
Yes, and I'm going to double down 100%. I didn't know what the fuck I was watching when I watched this movie as a child. It was shit happening, people flying, bullets swirling everywhere, a black bald dude handing out pills. I didn't know what was going on, but I know I enjoyed it. It had a great soundtrack. I will say this. My cousin is 110% correct because still to this day, it took me going to film school and talking to an old buddy of mine from my later 20 years to realize the over religious tones in these movies. And I was like, how did you get that from that movie? This guy's talking about, man creating AI and machines. Wink, wink. And overtaking, they're trying to free people and all this. Where do you get Jesus from? And all this other shit that you're talking about. I have read it at nauseating volumes and watched movies, reviews, and videos that people talk about. I'm like, yo, is there something I missed? Because I just saw a good fucking movie. Where do you all get all this from? But hey, that was the Wachowskis' ideal, and we just roll with that. The first film I loved. It was a shockwave of creativity for that film. We did many pieces of it in film school on how they did a lot of the scenes, the slow-mo and all that. And it was a real
Trinity in that
technical
leather
marvel.
outfit on the motorcycle.
The leather outfit, the motorcycle, the jumping in the air, and the 360 swirls. So many movies that are on kept copying so much stuff from The Matrix. But even how they achieved so much of that, and I did learn about it in film school, it was a marvel for that to happen in 99. And then even in later years, it was a huge cinema breakthrough when that happened. Now, like I said, I'll admit, when the first time I saw this movie, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. People were beating ass and jumping across
Jumping from
buildings
buildings.
and yeah,
Doing kung fu and
emptying
downloading it
clips.
to their head.
Yeah, emptying clips and dodging bullets. Dudes talking about some, when I go plug back in, I want to be rich and all this and
Bruh.
dumping phones. I'm like, what is happening? But I just thought it was a great movie.
People picking up a telephone to extract. I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Yes, yes, that was so confusing. But I was like, yo, it's cool. People don't even remember this, but you can go look this up. The Matrix was so popular. The phone that they used, that little phone that
Yeah.
he will pick up and then slick open up, and they made that in real life. It was limited. I can't remember what the carrier was. They made that one, and then there was another one. It was designed specifically for the little digital icons, little stuff they had in the film. They made that too. The Matrix, huge,
Yeah,
so
Matrix
huge.
games.
Yes, most of them were terrible except for
Yeah.
The Path of Neo. That was the best one that everyone loved. Of course, most movie tie-in games were terrible. I don't think that's really changed. It's gotten better. Yes, The Matrix was great. It was a good movie. Now, to add on to confirm something my cousin was saying, I do believe you are correct. Reloaded and I think Revolution came out in the same year. I think is what you was asking. One came
Mhm.
out towards the beginning, and I think the other one came out towards the end. And they did that because the Reloaded, since it was so many years after the first one, they didn't want so much time to go again and people lose interest or like, yo, what's happening? So they took the time, made the sequels, and then you got to the beginning of the year. The other one got it was kind of a little convoluted, I will admit. Towards the end, it kind of felt kind of Skynetty, Machine City, etc. But I will say this: hearing about the religious overtones of the film, then going back and you watch the Matrix Revolution, and when you get to Machine City, you're like, okay, I get it now. When the
Mhm.
machines go to make that weird face, but to me, I was like, I thought it was a giant baby's face. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get where people got these comparisons from. But I'm just like, hey, okay. If that's what they were going for, I missed it, and I still missed it. This was a great trilogy and a great cinema. This is a good pick. All right, this is my second pick, and I think this was another one that my cousin was thinking about that I had beat her to the punch. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to give a little bit of quick history before I get into this. Everyone looks at Tony Stark's Iron Man being the savior of Marvel and starting off the MCU. I'll go ahead and give them that. What people don't know is the Blade film was the first film they put their real money to that really started and gave them the money to transition to the Iron Man films that took off the way they did. When Marvel made Blade, it was literally hey, this is we're betting everything on this. This is our last shot. Because you ask most people before this movie came out, they didn't know Blade as a Marvel character. I picked this. Well, one, I love vampire movies. They're right up there with zombie movies for me. They're the comfort food in a sense. And I think this is one of Wesley Snipes' best roles. I can't really think of anything else to come to mind. But as a Marvel film and as a vampire movies, they were awesome. Deacon Frost's character and the legend and lore of ancient vampire rituals to become what he is, that he was already due to just chance of genetics. Awesome. It was truly, truly. Then you had the sequel, which delved deeper into their lore of where vampires come from, and they are mutated through a virus feeding. It was like, what? What are we talking about? Vampire lore was, hey, there's some old dudes from back, during medieval time with the fluffy clothes and suck human blood. They really threw more depth into lore of vampires and vampire hunting, silver and ultraviolet bullets and everything. It was just really, really wonderful. Then, of course, as always, you get to the third film. Sometimes they end great. Sometimes I enjoyed Blade Trinity, third film. It was a little. I liked how they kind of reinvented the lore and backstory on Dracula and how he was, the perfect being and could do all this. He left the world and so on. So I'm like, okay, nice, different take on it. But it kind of went left field for me. Ryan Reynolds and the hijinks and his jokes and whatnot, and just I thought this was a great, great film trilogy. To me personally, Wesley Snipes has not done anything similar or groundbreaking as this. He was in the Expendable movies, but we won't get on that. I picked this because, like I said, my love of vampire movies, and I thought these were great Marvel movies, even though people don't know that, and he doesn't get any recognition today. These were my picks.
Yeah, I have nothing but love for Blade the character in these movies. It's very unfortunate that the Blade for more modern times is I don't understand what are they doing, bruh. They had to do the perfect dude to play it. He backing out because the story and the director. I don't know. It's in some bullshit. You can look it up after you watch this video. But yeah, I have nothing but love. Now I will say I was too young to go see the first Blade movie in movies, but I do remember seeing the second one, I want wanna say maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just a third. I know I watched one of these in the theater, but other two I watched on cassette tape, VCR, whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, Blade has listen, even though these movies are not overly Marvel like we know Marvel today, you know, all the CGI and all the bullshit, but I just remember Blade when his fucking fangs would be out and all the motherfuckers hated on him and he was in all that leather and I don't know, it's just everything about these movies, it built my foundation on what I think Blade is and should be. And that's why I was very much interested when old boy, I can't even think of his name, I'm sorry, the actor that was picked and announced to be the new Blade going forward. I was like, oh, okay, that goes well with the foundation of Blade of how I know it. So yeah, I hold these movies in high regard, even though technically they're not the best movies. They're not groundbreaking in any way. But like my cousin said, this really did save the studio at the time, and a lot of people do not give Blade the recognition I think it deserves because for the time these came out, like I think the first one came out in '98, the second one in 2002, and then the last one in 2004. So you got to think about where technology was and film making and stuff. And like we said, this is all before Iron Man. And this is what saved the studio. And it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. But I got nothing but love for Blade. And no one can really tell me any different about these Blade movies because, baby, this is like one of the foundation movies of my childhood and very R-rated and mature movies. But yeah, nothing but love for Blade. That's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you made me think back about it. This really was a real big movie for me in my childhood. You said 98. I think this was what made me start wearing black clothing the way that I did, just trying
Oh
to
God.
be cool and be outside. Yeah, I love the Blade, that first Blade movie. Like, I watched it numerous times with, like I said, the Deacon Frost. I used to be trying to look up, well, not look up, but go to libraries or find any books on like old vampire lore, things like that. Because before then, vampire lore stuff was kind of cookie cutter, you
Yeah.
know, vampirism, suck blood, possibly transforming the bat. And then here comes Blade, not only going deeper in their lore, but even vampire hunters as a whole, with not just some old guys living in a forest with wooden stakes. You know, this
And garlic.
went in. Yeah, with garlic. You know, this went in. Vampire Bibles, lore, their own type of religion and everything that came along with it. And then also, too, like my cousin said, this gave the character itself recognition because just like with Iron Man, Blade was not a well-known, loved, or known character like that.
Or
Same as Iron Man until
mainstream.
these movies came out.
Yeah.
It was not mainstream. It took these movies, having these actors bring them to life on the cinema screen. The people are like, oh, snap, oh, here he is. Now, I don't know if he was in the Marvel versus Capcom games, but I do believe Blade was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And that was a character I did pick, use, and play because, hey, of my fond memories. So, hey, shout out Wesley Snipes. Like I said, I think this was like the height of his movie career, and I do not recall him doing anything bigger or better. This was another trilogy I truly did enjoy. And we can just move on to the
Mhm.
next. Ooh.
Mhm. Alright, so my next pick is Spider-Man Trilogy that was, directed by Sam. The is often referred as the 2000 Spider-Man Trilogy because it went from 2002 to 2007. None of this, Tom Holland Spider-Man nonsense that I do not like, and I have went on this show and said I do not like that Spider-Man trilogy movies or wherever the fuck Disney is doing with it. But the trilogy consists of Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and 3, directed by Sam. The film followed Peter Parker, the original young man, balancing personal sacrifice with the responsibility of being Spider-Man. The trilogy centers on responsibility, sacrifice, and identity. Some of the famous quotes that came from these movies: "With great power comes great responsibility," is the emotional backbone. Heroism is shown as costly, often requiring Peter to give up love, normalcy, and happiness. Villains reflect distorted versions of Peter's own struggles, obsessions, pride, revenge, and ego. Rather than power fantasy, the trilogy frames being a hero as a burden you choose to carry. The cultural impact: mainstream superhero films as serious blockbusters before the MCU era was really groundbreaking. Spider-Man 2 is still regarded as one of the greatest superhero films ever made. It became popularized emotionally. Character-driven superhero storytelling influenced how studio balanced spectacle with personal stakes, cemented Spider-Man as a defining pop culture icon of the 2000s. The film proves superhero movies could be financially massive and emotionally grounded. Spider-Man came out in 2002 and generated 825 million worldwide, still regarded for one of the best performing movies in that year. Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004. It did 789 million worldwide. But Spider-Man 3 is the highest grossing movie out of all three of them, 895 million worldwide. And this is before the housing crash. So '07 movie tickets wasn't bruh, the tickets wasn't more than $5 and it still almost eclipsed $1 billion. That is huge. Total trilogy box office exceeded 2.5 billion worldwide. The legacy. The 2000 Spider-Man trilogy laid the foundation for modern superhero cinema by providing the emotional storytelling, the moral themes, and the blockbuster scale could coexist, shaping everything that followed from the MCU to today's comic book films. Now listen, 2002, I'll never forget. This was the very first live action superhero movie that I saw ever in life. Because, like I said, I know Blade was 98. I didn't go to the movies because I was so young when that came out. I watched that on VCR, cassette tape, whatever you want to, whatever it's called. I didn't see one of the Blade things in movies until the last one, which is after this. But I just remember being in the theater as a young child and watching some of the fight scenes, like when he's in that burning building and he does that little freeze, like slow-mo twist between the blades. I just remember the whole theater erupting. Like, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is everybody yelling? But it was so many scenes, even beyond that, that the theater react to with such strong, like emotional. And I was just like, I didn't realize how popular Spider-Man was. Of course, because I'm a kid, I don't know. It looks cool. So he's swinging from building to building. It's like a modern day Tarzan in my eyes. But I didn't realize Spider-Man as a character was so popular, and it explains why the theater reacted. And that wasn't just with the first one. I remember seeing the other two in theaters, and maybe not the third one, but the second one, they were still erupting when scenes happen and things like that. So I hold this Spider-Man trilogy in such high regard and kind of the staple of what Spider-Man is supposed to be. If you watch and like the Tom Holland Spider-Mans that, Disney has control of, I'm not gonna say you're wrong or whatever. They're just not going to top pedigree in my head. And you can call me biased or whatever, but I just remember Spider-Man being like a grown ass movie. Like it had grown ass consequences. It wasn't all this kitty like shit. And I'm not saying it's kitty, but I don't know. It just this Spider-Man felt more grown up. Let me phrase it like that than the Tom Holland Spider-Man. That's how I feel, and that's what I'm gonna stand on. No one can change my mind, and I just don't like the modern Spider-Man. But this was like I said, very first live action superhero movie I saw in theaters as a young child. So it's always gonna be a staple, and always be. Even though the third one has some flaws, and it was kind of like, usually these trios, by the time the third one comes, they're kind of veering off a little bit from the main road, but you kind of let it get to the finish line because the other two were so great. But like I said, Spider-Man 2 is still regarded as one of the best live action superhero movies ever made. And that's even with Marvel having an onslaught of live action superhero movies. So yeah, that my pick, Superman trilogy. I don't think I will ever have a Spider-Man that will come out for the rest of my existence of my life on this planet and will top how I feel about this version of Spider-Man. But that's just me.
Yeah, you are not lying about that third Spider-Man film. Boy, when it came out and they were showing the marketing, it had the black suit, everyone was like, oh, everyone was excited to the high heavens for that film. I remember like, hey, I need to see this the day it comes out, or at least that weekend. I was hot for it. Boy, it really kind of, yeah, but this like a pattern. By the time these third films come out, like, yo, what are you doing? I was
Uh,
really upset. There was
uh,
a lot of crying in that
Yo,
movie.
the viral video of him dancing and shit. What the fuck were you?
Yes.
What's going on? my god.
And
Yeah, oh my
when that
god.
third movie came out, you could tell, hey, they was probably tired. They was like, y'all, let's go get
Yeah.
that shit over with.
Yeah, it's frappable
Because
on this.
crying, the emotions, and I can tell you, me as a Spider-Man fan, and I'll get to the Tom Holland stuff in a second, but the fact that Spider-Man's greatest adversary, I won't say villain, his greatest adversary is Venom, and he came and was dealt with in the same fucking film was atrocious to me. That really had bothered me. That all right, you introduced the black suit, he's getting emotional, all emo. The dancing scene, him shaking and gyrating. I'm like, the fuck are we doing? But all right, okay, let's just see where it's going. He's crying, Mary Jane's crying, Harry's crying, and shit. Everyone
Everybody's
was crying.
crying.
Everyone was crying. And then Venom comes. Even the fucking dude, Eddie Brock, he was about to cry in that church before he got the suit. And then he was beating ass, but then you defeated him all in the same film. Yeah, that bothered me. But my cousin is right. This is another of its time, genre defining. When this came out, what grade was I in? When did the first one come out? You said 2002? Yeah, I was
2002, 2004, and 2007.
yeah, I was in double digits of age. Okay, yeah, this was awesome. I loved the Hobgoblin in the first one. No, Green Goblin. I'm sorry, Green Goblin in the first one. Doc Ock in the second one. Venom in the third. But they were great movies. Great movies. And I remember in film school learning there are a lot of things that happens in the first film that they use a lot of film trickery that you just do not know. And it shows how creative these studios and directors used to be before CGI just took over
Yeah.
everything. Like I can tell you right now, the scene where he rescued her from that balcony that was collapsing and they swung away and it showed him holding her clutching to him as they swing away. That's not Tobey Maguire. It's a fucking mannequin. And it's a mannequin that's like moving along a track real quickly, whatever they have in the background. But they shot it so well that you would think like, oh, he's swinging in the air, carrying this broad. It defies its time. And then also to throw out there, people don't know this, Spider-Man is the highest grossing superhero character. Not Batman, not Superman. Even combined, make up nowhere near the money that Spider-Man makes. And that is one of the reasons why Sony chose to get their hands on him from Marvel back in their darker days. If you know, you know. If you don't, I believe we touched on it in another video. Please check it out. Yeah. Now, this is where me and my cousin is where we have a rare instance when we do disagree. I do enjoy this film trilogy, but I am a more fan of the Tom Holland trilogy. And she is not. And I see the differences between them, the more grown aesthetic aspect to this one. Whereas with the Tom Holland, they kind of took it back to yesteryear, showing him as a kid in high school and etc. Even though the first film showed that he was a senior, but hey, to each their own. But these were still great movies, and their cultural impact still lasts today because that gif or meme of him dancing, people still use that to this day. Hell, even for the Tom Holland films, they brought him and another Spider-Man back just to show tribute to them of how the door got open for those films. So, and beautiful. That third one was,
Moving on.
if you know, you know. We can move on to the next one. Now, this was my next pick, and I had to think long and hard because I'm like, yo, trilogies, and I wanted to keep it trilogy. There was one set of movies I wanted to put, but I'm like, yo, there was other movies that came before it. I didn't want to hear people saying shit, so I kept it to trilogies. And then I remembered the motherfucking Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's just magnum opus. I can say wholeheartedly, these films is what got me into high fantasy reading and movies and video games. Because before these elves, orcs, and mages and whatnot, I ain't gonna lie, I was young and I'm like, that's nerdy. Don't D&D people play that? And then my mother took me to see this movie and I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know what was happening, but I just knew I loved it. Aragorn, the ranger, fucking head orc in the forest, they were all scattering and deflecting that knife. Quick facts for you, also learned this in film school. That was impromptu. When that head orc, when they fought in the forest toward the end of the first one, and he threw that and Aragorn deflected with his sword, that was completely a spur of the moment and was not meant to happen. And him as an actor flinched that because I think it was a real blade. If it would have hit him, it would have did real damage. But for just dramatic reasons, One Ring, the Two Towers, Battle of Helm's Deep, them holding on, at least those impossible eyes, once again, the cinematography, everything. And I'm a matter of fact, I have not read the fucking books. I've read one, but I know the films. And I know there are huge audiences on both sides of the pond. Some believe if you ain't read the books, you're not a real fucking fan. Some have only watched the movies and be like, yo, fuck the books. They're old relic. The films are the new thing. Hey, I'm just letting you all know ahead of time. The Two Towers, especially with the horses, Gandalf coming back as Gandalf the White. Weird, because I hate that in film to kill a character off, but to just bring them back again for X, Y, and Z reasons, but with a new coat of paint. I've always hated that in every form of entertainment. Return of the King, that big fucking whatever dragon thing that was, just cinema in itself. And if you notice what all these films and trilogies we're picking, these are all older trilogies. I don't think there's nothing we've named yet that's like kind of current or modern day-ish. So that just goes to show you how back in the day they had such less to work with and did so much more. I love these films. And then not to mention, these films, people who do not know, they came out a year after each other. I believe the first one was 2001, Two Towers was 02, and Return of the King was 2003. You don't have that in films today, or in most films of this scale, because each film, I believe, is well over 200 hours if you watch the real version, not the theatrical. This changed a huge part of my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm a huge RPG lover now. My cousin will tell you that. It is so to the point when I buy an RPG, I have to get it physical and then probably get it digitally on sale, just make it cheaper. But these films hit for me. I'm still a Lord of the Rings fan today. I've never played none of the MMOs, but the movies, mwah, 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 mwah. All around. I own the extended edition set of each one. I think each one in its full version is 4.5 hours long. Back in 2001, you couldn't put a movie out like that in film. No one had time or would have sat through that. Nowadays, yeah, you're kind of pushing it. I think the Marvel movies toward the
Justice
end were
League.
pushed. Yeah. Well, Justice League, yeah, but that didn't hit theaters. That was the HBO thing. But I was gonna say the
Yeah,
Marvel
that's
movies,
because of COVID.
they're pushing it because one of them was like 3.5 hours long. They're really pushing it because most films or theaters don't have films that go on that long. But these films were just a huge piece of my childhood. I think it was what really got me into watching movies like this, because not only did my mother take me to go see it, she also bought the DVD for it before my fucking uncle stole it. Good times. And then, of course, the larger lore aspect of Lord of the Rings in general. But Treese, how was your memory or feelings on these movies?
Yeah, I remember being really, really young, going to watch this, and I think it was the third one I fell asleep on because it was so fucking long.
God damn.
Yeah, but no, these movies were great. Definitely was a lot of content for my age to absorb at the time. It was a ring, it was a goblin. You put the ring on, you could disappear. You would see this shadowy stuff, and the knights were after the fucking ring. And the Hobbit was so small versus real humans. It had the different elements. The elf woman was trying to marry an old boy, but I guess I don't know, it was her uncle, her dad was like, he's not gonna live for the entire time. You're gonna be left. It's so many things. Then Gandalf thinking he was dead, he came back like whiter than white on rice with his outfit, and I'm like, where the fuck did he come from? I thought he was gone. So it was so many funny moments though, because it was still had this humor layer to it. But I just remember being really, really young, watching this, thinking this was just like, oh, this is cool. This is cool, and especially at that time where I don't know, I had big imagination. So like this story really did explode my imagination on like fairy tale or fantasy type things. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, this was actually on my list as well, because I don't think you can talk about a trilogy without bringing up Lord of the Rings. It would be a criminal crime. I know there have been some other stuff released after these movies, you know, the Hobbit movie and whatever else they try to do. And that show that is on Amazon Prime, baby, that everybody kills. I have not watched that Lord of the Ring project, and I have no intentions to. Nah, I'm cool. So I know they try to do a little series. I think they still are making new seasons of it, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's other Lord of the Ring projects after these three first movies. But these trilogy, I will say, I think this is one of the trilogy from A to Z. Even when you got to the third film, it felt very much in sync with the heights, the parameters, and then too, it really did the conclusion of the story justice. Even the ending, it made sense to me, even at a young age, and it didn't feel all crazy like the third Spider-Man movie kind of felt. It didn't feel like it went off the road. I felt like they were pretty consistent throughout all the three movies, and they stayed on the same road, and you got from your point A to point B in a very cohesive storytelling. And it was a lot of characters, man. Like, even in the first movie, so many characters, and then the second one, and I, like my cousin, tried to read the book, but baby, I'm just gonna be honest, I had to start writing down the characters' names in a bio so I remember who the fuck they were. And I was reading the book, and then I looked at a character that I wrote down, and I still couldn't remember who the fuck he was. I stopped because at that point, baby, baby, I listen, nah. I'm not that reader, bruh. I'ma just point that out. I'm sorry, not sorry. At that point, I was just like, nope, this is too far out my wheelhouse. But very, very, very well respected trilogy. Very much still, this trilogy has a lot of fans, and that's why they were pissed about the Amazon Prime little series, and they felt
Um,
disgusted. This trilogy did have video games. I don't think I played none of the Lord of the Rings games. From what I
what?
can remember. Yeah, I think I could have pretty sure Lord of the Rings had video games, but yeah, Chef's Kiss to Lord of
Yes,
the
they have.
Rings.
You never played War in the North,
No,
Conquest,
I
The
didn't
Hobbit?
play. No, I didn't play none of the video games.
Not even the movie tie-ins? Like, I ain't gonna
No.
lie, Two Towers movie tie-in was, oh man, oh goddamn. It's hard to go back and play in them now. Well, you ain't go back and
Yeah.
play them now.
Yeah, because I mean, they
With the
were
way
on
you always
Game
rap.
Boy Advance. I
Game
remember
Boy
seeing them,
Advance,
and this
GameCube,
this is
PS2. Hold on.
you want to guess on who was the studio that made these Lord of the Ring games?
Please don't say EA.
It was EA. EA, baby. Yes, yes. But yep.
Yeah.
Listen,
Well,
very
that's
good
crazy.
trilogy, very good material, very good product, very much still has a lot of respect and has a lot of fanatics that still will not tolerate slander about these movies.
Nope.
That's why they're the fanatics that read the book and watched the movies that shit on the people that didn't read the books. It's a whole thing. But yep, Lord of the Rings people.
So you never played none of the Lego Lord of the Ring games either?
No, I didn't
Oh
play none of them.
man, oh man! I know you're gonna go back and play them now because, like I said, I know how you are with playing old stuff. The Lord of the Ring games, and I think the Harry Potter games, at
I
least like the
played
movie
Harry
tie-in
Potter
ones,
games.
yeah, those are like the maybe two franchises that movie tie-in games just didn't purely suck.
Yeah.
Like, you actually had fun playing,
Yeah.
enjoying them. But
Early Harry
hey,
Potter games were great.
also, I want to give you credit because you did say something that true that I fucking forgot. Hey, they introduced a lot of fucking characters and a lot of shit in these films, especially the first one. When that motherfucker Aragorn was with that Elvish lady and she's talking her Elvish language and talking about, I won't leave you. And I was like, yo, who are you? A lot of shit, if they kind of expected you to have read the books or know something, because I had to go back as I got older, rewatch the films, then go look up, hey, who is this? What are they talking about? To learn about shit that happened. There are a lot of things, if you did not read or know prior, you kind of were lost. Like Gandalf the Grey becoming the White, the Balrog, and all this shit. Why he came back, how he came back, whiter than Mr. Clean Sheen. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of shit. Even
What
now,
the
I'm
fuck?
sitting here thinking as you was talking, I'm like, yo, there was a lot of shit they introduced to you that I don't think I ever got questioned or resolved. Like the little thing with the hobbits, how they're regular humans and then they're human-like creatures with those fucking bears. Look just, and have breakfast, second breakfast, snack, luncheon, all this shit. But it was a great series. And then I think it's one of the few high fantasy IPs where elves are not subservient to human. A lot of high fantasy, I'll go off like Dragon Age. Elves were slaves. Oh, I'm sorry, indentured servants, like that series. A lot of high fantasy does that. I don't know why, but not here. But hey, another great franchise, another just monumental great cinema piece in history. Excuse me. We can move on to the next one.
All right, because my cousin picked a lot of stuff that was on my list, like Lord of the Rings, Batman, and some other things. I was like, okay, what's another good trilogy that I can think of? And Jurassic Park was that trilogy. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I fucks with it. Directed initially by Steven Spielberg, the series imagines a world where dinosaurs are cloned through genetic engineering and placed in controlled environments with disastrous consequences. Core messaging: the trilogy's central message is humans cannot control nature, and I feel like that one message is so parallel and prevalent in humanity right now because we are always trying to push nature to its limits, destroy ecosystems, disrupt animal habitats. In today's age, and where the messaging of this trilogy is still very much a issue in today's environment, 2026, because humans are just little destructive little fuckers. Another messaging: life finds a way, underscores the limits of human arrogancy. Science without ethics leads to chaos. Corrupt greed and hubris repeatedly override caution. Survival depends on humanity, adaptability, and respect for nature. Rather than celebrating technology, the films warns against playing God without responsibility. Cultural impact: revolutionized cinema with groundbreaking CGI and practical effects. Listen, I gotta say, for when this series came out, the CGI, fucking chef's kiss, a marvel for the time that these trilogy was first put out. Set a new standard for visual realism in blockbuster films, made dinosaurs a permanent fixture of pop culture, inspired generations of scientists, filmmakers, and theme park attractions. Jurassic Park 1993 is widely considered one of the greatest films ever made. Now, I don't know if I would say that. The franchise reshaped how Hollywood approached
Yeah, I ain't never heard that one.
spectacle-driven storytelling. All right, so Jurassic Park came out in 1993. It did 914 million worldwide. It almost made $1 billion. That crazy. We're talking 1993. Movie tickets probably were $3. Like, so think about how many people it took worldwide to see this movie for it to almost eclipse $1 billion. Like, we throw $1 billion around like it's a Tuesday because Marvel made it kind of a repeatable feat to do. But in reality, 1993, that's unheard of. The Lost World, 1997, did 618 million worldwide. Jurassic Park 3 in 2001 was the lowest grossing movie out of all of them with 368 million. The total trilogy box office did well over 2 billion worldwide. And I did not know this, but Jurassic Park that came out in 1993 has been released in theaters multiple times since it was first released, which grew its grossing well over $1 billion at that point. They kind of did the little Avatar thing where Marvel, I think Endgame overtook to be the highest grossing movie. Then Avatar re-released so it could hold the title, even though they're made by the same people. So why did you give a fuck? Anyway, Jurassic Park trilogy proved that blockbuster films could be blend scientific contradiction tales with awe and terror, leaving a lasting mark on film history and pop culture that still resonates decades later. As a kid, when I watched this in the VCR, these movies look real to me at the time. Like, when I was a kid, I thought that T-Rex was fucking real. That shit looked, and I was like, I didn't realize it till later in life. Like, how did they make it look so real back then? And especially with the budget and stuff they had back then. But listen, these movies did something fantastic. They really made dinosaurs movie a household name, and really no one, I think, or portrayed a dinosaur as the theme of the movie so well, but outside of Jurassic Park. Now, There's been other reboots of Jurassic Park, one recently with Scarlett Johansson that yeah, I would just say are interesting at best. These three, the pinnacle, the foundation, the 10 commandments of Jurassic Park, these were good to me. As a child, they were marvels. I thought dinosaurs was real. I thought they had these bitches in the backyard of some big island at one point cuz I was just a kid and didn't realize that shit was fake. For this to been the real starter of CGI as we know it today, I will say, and I see a lot of memes about it, CGI back then tops CGI today. And it's really crazy because you would think more and more time we've had since these movie release, CGI would get better. But in reality, in a lot of cases, it's gotten worse. Yeah, Jurassic Park, you know, like I said, another staple in my childhood, another masterpiece for the time it released. In the box office number shows that it really was a cultural event. And yeah, no one can really talk about this Jurassic Park trilogy to me and with slander. Now, like I said, the third one, it kind of follows a trend. It got a little iffy if we were still on the same road or not. We kind of veered off into the medium a little bit, but hey, all in all, great trilogy, great movies. If you've never seen them, go see them. I would suggest you watch these over the reboot. Now, yeah, even the one with old boy from Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one was all right. Everything after that was kind of like, what the fuck? So, yeah, that trilogy still doesn't do or has anything on the original trilogy. So I would still say watch this before any other Jurassic Park movies.
It's funny you say that because that's exactly how I feel about this first trilogy. The first movie, great, awesome. The reboots, the three films, the first one, great, awesome, nice. I ain't gonna lie, the second and the third one, I've always felt was like, you know, I get the first was such success, they made sequels. That's what happens in films, books, movies, whatever. The first one, I ain't gonna lie. First one kind of, when that T-Rex got loose, just touching the fence, I was like, oh, this shit ain't shocking me. I'm out. That caught me off guard. It was almost kind of scary. As a kid in 93 watching that, I'm like, oh shit. You know, I'm like, yo, is there some place where these things are kept up? Like, what if they get loose? You know, the concept of an entire island where some rich dude's playing God with all this money and gene splicing to make dinosaurs real. You know, that was a purely original idea. You know, I was on board with that. I love the first film. You know, life finds a way. You know, Jeff Goldblum and talking. I'm like, yo, that's an enormous pile of shit. You know, those lines. You know, they're memes. They're classics now. At the second film, I was just like, it just did not hit as the first one did. But you know, it was still good. That third one, I think I always get this mixed up. Second one was the kid missing, and the third one was the baby that got snatched, and the T-Rex in the city or in the world trying to get his baby back. And it was just like, oh, this has, to me, I just always felt like, yo, what are y'all doing? Why call it Jurassic Park if you're not back at said the park?
But
You
they
know?
fucked up the park in the first one. You guys.
Yeah. So that's why it's like, you know, why not just call it Jurassic something else? Why you still
Nah.
calling it the park? We're
They
not
went
at the
back to
park
the
anymore.
park. They went back to the park.
Yeah. I used to
Even though it was
always get me as
ruins.
a kid. Yeah. But I mean, they still are great fucking films. I mean, shit, they did do the reboots. And again, my cousin's not lying. Old boy from Garden Galaxy, Chris Pratt, that's his name. That first one, oh
Yeah,
man, ooh,
good.
okay, great. Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
the
he's
series
fucking
is back.
training. Yeah, you know, he's training velociraptors, you know, to this all weird thing and whatnot. And then the second one, all right, what? And then the
What?
third one, hey,
And
that third one really got me. I took my wife to go see that third one. We paid real money. And she was asking me so many questions. I'm like, yo, I don't fucking know. I'm watching the same movie you watching. Why would I know?
I
And I'm
don't
watching
have
it as
the
you.
answer, Sway.
Yeah, like I was just like, yo, what is this? Why did you all do this? It was a nice bit, you know, them kind of bringing it full circle, and then I thought it would stop. And they were just like, well, no, you know, people love this series. Yes, that's true. People love the classic. And then they rebooted it or whatever the hell they're redoing with Scarlett Johansson. I have not seen that yet. I don't know the success of it.
It's
My suggestion
it's on
to them,
Peacock, so go watch it for free.
there we go. And I shall. My only suggestion would be if they want to continue to do this with this franchise, these movies, make each one a self contained main thing, a one-off shoot, and go from there. This cohesive little narrative thing they're trying to do, spreading it apart, it just ain't going. But to bring it back to the originals, I enjoyed these. They gave you a true physical representation of what the hell these creatures look like, than using your imagination to just looking at their
Even
damn bones
yeah, even
in
though
a
now we
museum.
know that's not how they really look.
Even though, yeah, oh yeah, even though now that is not how they look, which is another like, yo, what the, who thought of this? But they were good movies. You know, me personally, I love the first one. If
Oh, yeah, yeah,
anything
of
of
course, of
Jurassic Park,
course.
I have to watch. It's going back to the original OG. The Professor
Yeah.
Grant and all of them, and the little girl trying to eat ice
The
cream and
fucking
getting scared.
mosquito and the little ball, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, the fucking kid getting shot, taking
Oh,
a sweet ass
the
time to
the f
jump down from the
the
fucking
fat guy
thing.
the fat guy that worked in the
Oh, that
park
fat
that got the
guy
Jeep
getting
stuck
mauled by that
and
fuck.
that thing
Yes,
spat oh my god, yes. Oh
yes.
my
Oh,
god.
or not even that. Samuel Jackson.
Yes!
Samuel Jackson was in the movies.
Yes!
He didn't last
Yes!
long. You know,
Yes.
hold on to your butts because he's holding his little cigarette. But hey, Samuel Jackson was in the movie. Like, yo,
Yo,
first one.
I need to go back and watch
Overall
this.
classic. Overall classic. My only issue is shit. I didn't realize how old that movie was because that makes me feel shit. I'm like, how old am I? You said first one was 93. Was
Yeah.
4. So that's
Yeah.
crazy. We are talking about a true classic of movie. And like I'm gonna reiterate again, there's a real big theme to this video. Majority of all these movies are none of them are modern classics. They don't make films like this
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah,
Everything
exactly.
is made to somehow garner money instead of telling the story first and letting the money come in. That's all I got for here. But just nostalgia.
Yep. Yeah.
That's not Nintendo.
Yeah, big nostalgia pull right there. But moving on. The Mighty Ducks. I was raised off the Mighty Ducks movies.
So this was my next one, and I had to think long and hard on this one because, like I said, issues I was running into was everything I wanted to talk about. Like, oh, maybe there's a potential for a film or another film or some one-off shoot. And like I said, I don't want to hear shit about y'all in the comments, even though we can do whatever the fuck we want. But Mighty Ducks, classic childhood movie. Emilio Estevez. Hopefully I said that name right because you don't see him anymore. You know, the drunken lawyer,
Yeah,
community
you really
service.
don't.
Duke coached this little league team, took them from nothings to something. Brought the Ducks. He had the sequel. They went to high school. Yeah, they went to high school. You know, he took them to Team USA. You know, he got into corporate world and lost himself. Sleep with the enemy, getting ice cream, and made his comeback. And then the third film, they went to college. Yeah. There's a real trend with all these third fucking movies. But this movie was just, I remember watching these as a kid with my great grandmother before she had passed away. She had bought me all of them. This was when Disney used to make children movies for children about children. You know, I'm gonna say that out loud because modern Disney is not like that now. I tried to get into hockey and skating
Because
because
of
of these
this.
movies.
Yes, yes, yes,
Because of
yes,
these
yes.
movies. I tried rollerblading, I tried the skating, all that didn't work. Many fall attempts and fall downs. I was like, fuck it, I don't want to do this, Mom. But these movies, loved all of them. And the childhood humor, the child issues that was going on in these films, it made it to where, like I said, they were for kids. You were a kid watching this, and you can relate on your mom giving you shit about your schoolwork or seeing some guy, you know, single motherhood, all that stuff. You know, it was a product of its time. Going back on, like I said, with the other trilogy, they don't make films like this. And this is Disney. This is Disney. They don't make films like this for kids by kids. I'm sorry, not by kids. For kids about kids. Most modern Disney stuff, if it's the child stuff, it's animated. They don't do live action stuff. But I love these films. I was a huge fan, especially of the second one when they went Team USA and they were in high school. I enjoyed that. Kenan Thomas, that's when he was introduced. He was a childhood actor that started with, I believe, All That before having his own show and then going to SNL now. These were great. What was the big kid name? The big kid bully with the real hard hit. It's not Aberman. Aberman was the big dude. No, there was Goldberg. Big guy was the goalie, always eating. You know, movies like this, they used to make fun of the fat kid. or whoever. Shit, I can't remember. I'm just naming out random names from the kids. But you had to have seen it. You had to have been. And this is a part of my childhood. And like, Trish, take it away.
Listen, the Mighty Ducks, I will not accept any slander on the Mighty Ducks. Now, you can say, oh, the third film, I don't give a Like my cousin said, I was raised in Texas and there's no such thing as a hockey team. And I was like, Mom, I'm going to join a hockey team. And she was like, what the fuck is a hockey team? It's not a thing unless you're in like some AA outside of school. No school has hockey in Texas, at least not where I was raised in Dallas growing up in the late 90s. Like, nah. But I love these movies. This is pinnacle Walt Disney movie output. Like, and I remember they showed these movies damn near nonstop for years. And I remember got a VCR in my room. This was one of the first movies I remember playing when I got a VCR in my room and could play movies that I wanted to play without being harassed by the other adults in the house. And Mighty Ducks, bro, was on my shelf along with Lion King and the Land Before Time movies. Like, this was top tier kid movie for me. So yes, the Mighty Ducks, they made me want to go play hockey, even though it's not a thing in Texas. I love these movies, and I still watch these movies on the Disney app. Like, they're there. They're like classics, Disney movies, up there with Lion King. Like I said, I refer to these movies in such high regard that I make my nephew watch these movies, because there's just a certain tone kid movies back then that really was like, you're a kid. And in today's age, where Roblox is running rampant, Fortnite, a lot of this stuff that these kids, well, at least my nephew, let me not say kids, I mean, he watched so much TikTok and YouTube short, like, it's like his brain cannot sit and watch a 2-hour movie, and the hour and a half, whatever long this movie, and he will sit there and he will watch the Mighty Ducks. So that's just so prevalent of how successful and how good these movies were from then, and still good today. So shout out to the Mighty Ducks. I know a lot of people, when I bring up old school movies and child movies, Mighty Ducks is known by everybody. I have not met a person in the 90s and even the early 2000s that don't know about the Mighty Ducks series. That says a lot, because Disney at one point was pumping out a lot of good shit for a very long time. So yeah, shout out to them to the Mighty Ducks, bruh. Forever in my heart.
Hell yeah. Fulton. That was the kid's name.
Oh,
Fulton
God.
was the big bully kid that had that mean, heavy slap shot. It was killing me while my cousin was talking, I was trying to get this out. But Fulton, and he had his counterpart that came from Chicago that was a fan of his. It was really bugging
Okay.
me. But yeah, these are great movies. We can just move it on.
All right, this mofo. All right, my next pick, Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, people are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Listen, at the back end of my list, it gets a little dicey because, like I said, my cousin took a lot of the stuff that I originally. I cannot deny the Pirates of the Caribbean had a whole fucking movement at one point. The films in the original trilogy, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Pirates of the Caribbean, Outer Worlds End. Now, people are gonna be like, "Oh, there's more Pirates of the Caribbean movies." Do not acknowledge those. They are way after the fact, many years after this third and the end of the trilogy. So they're kind of like modern day fuck ups. So anyway, led by Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, the trilogy blends buckling adventure with fantasy, myth, and comedy. The trilogy centers on freedom, choice, and consequences. True freedom comes with risk and sacrifice. Authority and rigid order are often corrupt and flawed. Cleverness and adaptability matters more than brute strength. Faith can be challenged, but never without a price. Jack Sparrow represents chaotic freedom, while characters like Will Turner and Elizabeth evolve between duty and independence. Cultural impact. These movies revived a pirate genre for modern audience, made Jack Sparrow one of the most iconic characters of the 2000s. Through comedy-heavy performance could anchor blockbuster hits, polarize pirate aesthetics, slang, and Hollywood costume themes. Template for fantasy action franchises with humor and lore. The trilogy reshaped Disney's live action strategy influenced how studio balanced spectacle with personality. Now, the box office Curse of the Blue Pearl in 2003 did 654 million worldwide. Well, Dead Man's Chest 3 years later in 2006 did 107 billion. This franchise, the second movie in the trilogy, did over $1 billion in 2006. Crazy amount of money. At World's End in 2007, they was only a year apart, did 960 million. So even the third one almost eclipsed $1 billion. The trilogy total box office is near $3 billion worldwide. The original Pirates trilogy proved that character-driven chaos, myth-heavy world building, and humor could coexist in blockbuster scale, creating cultural phenomena that defined the mid-2000s cinema. And a lot of people do forget that the Pirates of the Caribbean is a Disney franchise. And so a lot of people looked at how crazy and how chaotic Jack Sparrow, the character, was. And, people fawn over Johnny Depp because of his Pirates of the Caribbean role and how he portrayed the character. And even when he was hit with some unfortunate allegations and Disney dropped him because they were going to make, I think, another Pirates of the Caribbean, fans erupted because that's how much love Jack Sparrow, the character, has and how much weight he carries. And even now, there is speculation saying that, Disney will now allow him to do another Pirates of the Caribbean. But a lot of people is like, hey, we passed that, let him do whatever he wants to do. But anyway, these movies, I remember being young, and I remember Halloween people trying to dress up as Jack Sparrow. These movies was very much prevalent in the children community at school and stuff like that. A lot of people drew, a lot of art classes was a very pirate theme. And I don't know, it's not like they did anything really groundbreaking, like storytelling wise, or, just the fact that Johnny Depp is great. Outside of that, I mean, probably are average like movies, if we're being honest. But they just were so loved and beloved, and they made so much money, so they were literally plastered every fucking where. Like, you could not go without knowing about these IPs and these product of Pirates of the Caribbean. And that's the reason why I did put them on the list, just because it was such a cultural icon, and the culture just would not allow Pirates of the Caribbean to fail. It was kind of crazy because, like I said, the story is pretty mid. Anything outside of Johnny Depp's performance is pretty mid. I remember the octopus man looked disgusting. I will say CGI was pretty good because a lot of them characters that's on that ghost ship, that's CGI. And like I said, I feel like CGI has gotten worse, because maybe I need to go back and watch, because I just feel like that shit looked real back in the day. And I was like, fuck. But now I can point CGI out. I know it when I see it. But back then, it really did play trickery on your eyes. So yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean's on my list. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hold it in high regard. Story wise, I'm gonna be honest, it's mid. Anything outside of Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow is pretty mid to me. I don't even care about the other dude and the girl he liked, and he, ended up being the captain of the ghost ship, and he can only come ashore one. Yeah, I remember all that, but all that is pretty mid outside of Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow. Let's just be honest. But yeah, that's Pirates of the Caribbean. How did you see the Pirates of the Caribbean? Did you even like it?
I saw the first two films. I did not see the third. I remember the first one. He was trying to get his ship back, the Aztec gold and the curse and something or whatnot. The second one, I can't fully remember what was going on with that. I think it was one night when he got on the Flying Dutchman and the Davy Jones locker. Everybody on the cruise ship was like something of like a crustacean person, something.
Yeah,
Am I getting that
yeah.
right? Yeah, that's about it. I didn't see the third one. I enjoyed Johnny Depp. I love the first one. I just I don't know. I didn't get into it. I was so confused. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention or something. But I love Johnny Depp, and I love him for another trilogy. I didn't put it on here because it's too many decades for motherfuckers to know about it. But they were interesting, and you are right. They are a Disney, which probably explains why there's so many of them beyond the third one. And I think what you're saying is right. After that trial and mess up he had, they were like, "Oh, hey, you come back. We're gonna do something more with the series, a reboot or something." I think he told them, "Fuck y'all," because of how they did him with the accusations, and then like, oh, it comes out, oh, you was telling the truth the whole time. No, no, keep it moving, bro. But I have seen them. Like I said, the first two they were interesting, and that's about it. I didn't see the third one, so I can't really put my 2 cents on it. But I will say they did bring pirate culture back, or made it
Yeah.
more relevant than just regular swashbuckling and drunks, etc. I believe this and Assassin's Creed Black Flag really helped, with the pirate as opposed to other mediums. But I really ain't got much on.
Yeah, like I said, anything outside of Johnny Depp was kind of mid, but it's the fact that this shit did buku numbers. It has a large following. People still want Johnny Depp to play this character again, even in the 2026 era. So yeah, I think for all of that, it does deserve a place on the list, even though I find a lot of stuff outside of Johnny Depp performance to be mid. But probably gonna get some flack in the comments. But hey, it's on my list. I gave it a shine. I gave it its time.
And just like with my cousin, it was getting a little long in the tooth. I had to really, really go back in my mind palace and pull this one. So a lot of people probably will not know what the hell these movies are or about. They are very, very old. I believe the first one, this is the Evil Dead trilogy. This is Sam Raimi's work. He's the director and person who made the 2000 Spider-Mans that was earlier in this video that we talked about. He made these movies. Him and Sam Ash, I can't remember the guy's real name. They were made in the 80s. I think the first one is made in 81 or something like that. They are about they are horror movies. And anyone who has any knowledge of horror films or cinema at all, horror films are kind of a niche thing. You either like them or you don't. They scared you or they didn't. There is no middle ground. But Sam Raimi's dream and his type of filmmaking, he made it horror, but he also threw in aspects of comedy with it, lighthearted jokes or something to kind of ease you in with a laugh before he scared the shit out of you. At least back then. At least back then. You watch these now, there's no way in hell you're getting scared. There's no CGI in these. I don't believe so. It was all makeup, prop, everything. But the story premise is around a very well-known fable book called the Necronomicon. It has been in H.P. Lovecraft's work. It has been in this movies, and even the newer Evil Dead movies. There hasn't been one in a while. A couple years. I think the last one was Evil Dead Rise, which is interesting. But these movies is what set the tone and for that. They took place with a guy taking his girlfriend to a cabin for the weekend, trying to do what people did back then in the 80s. They found a book, and just like dumb teenagers, for whatever reason, decided to read from said book, and horror was unleashed. The first two films, you're not watching them for the comedy, but at the time they were very interesting, and the lore around them is what got me. And the main character that they played, he also played in a TV show they made decades later, and also they made video games based off of this by the name title Evil Dead. The sequel, I can't remember fully. The sequel is where he lost his hand and gained the trademark chainsaw. He took a chainsaw, replaced it with his hand, and and his boomstick. Those were classics. I can't remember what was the premise of each one. I know both take place in the wood, but I can't remember why he went back or whatever in the second one, and it happened again. Army of Darkness is what I like to call a we need some money third movie, because Army of Darkness was years later. Not as bad as Godfather 3, but it's up there, and it takes a different premise, him being transported to a different world or time period and doing what he does best. I love horror movies. Horror movies do not get enough attention as they deserve, and they get a bad rap. Like I said, either it scared you or it didn't. There's no middle ground. No one kind of cares about them or anything like that. But this was something that I pulled out as a last minute banger to say, hey, I enjoyed these. And like I said, I'm pretty sure most of the people watching or listening are probably gonna have to look this up to be like, yo, what the hell is an Evil Dead? Have you ever heard, let alone seen any of these films?
Yeah, my uncle was very much into these, so I do remember watching these with him. Don't ask me why a teenager is watching a 5-year-old. In today time, you'll probably have CPS called on you. But yeah, these are very, very oldies. And I often say that old horror, how I phrase this, horror movies are just not made like they used to. They don't have that like shit. I've like watching shit like this used to give me nightmares as a kid. I don't think horror really touches that pedestal these days. And maybe just because I'm a grown up and I know better. It definitely was an era and a time. And a lot of people don't know about these movies. But hey, if you can find them, I don't know if they're on streaming service or anything like that. But if you can find them, definitely go watch them. I think they're worth your time to go watch. And oldies but goodies. But I got nightmares from watching this shit with my uncle. I do remember and recall these movies. So
But anything I can tell you will not do it justice. And as far as the films on being on any stream service, I doubt that. Highly doubt it. But if you find somewhere to watch them, give them a good look because, like I said, these are old films. They're done. They do things completely different. But to me, they were great horror films because I know the first one when I saw it as a kid, it scared the shit out of me, especially with the costume, the makeup, the white eyes, and here my mother is trying to get me into reading, and all hell's breaking loose because someone was reading something. So you can imagine as a kid, I'm like, yo, reading's bad. You see what happens? But yeah, if you get a chance, check them out. Any of the older people probably watching, hey, you all know, you remember these. That's pretty much all I got as far as.
all right. My last is the Bourne series. Yeah, I picked this just on the premise that they don't make spy movies like this anymore, where are flooded with superhero movies and others trying to do the exact opposite. There is really I can't think of spy movies like this in modern age. I know 007 is a spy like theme franchise, but that has been on ice. I know they picked a new actor to play it because old boy was like he was done. So yeah, the Bourne trilogy, 2002 to 2007, 3 films starring Matt Damon. And let me just say, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm not a Matt Damon fan. I don't really care for Matt Damon. Don't kill me in the comments, but I don't know. I just don't care for him. But he starred as Jason Bourne, a CIA assassin suffering from amnesia while covering the truth about his past. The trilogy focuses on identity, accountability, and institutional abuse. Power without oversight becomes dangerous. Governments create weapons they can't control. Personal morality can survive even after systematic corruption. Knowing the truth matters more than loyalty to authority. Bourne's journey is less about becoming a hero and more about reclaiming humanity. Cultural impacts redefine the modern spy thriller, shifted action films towards gritty realism and grounded stakes, popularized handheld camera work and close quarters combat, focused franchise like James Bond to modernize casino royalty. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Made intelligent agencies a source of tension rather than trust. Trilogy moved action cinema away from fantasy and into brutal realism. Box office performance: the first Bourne Identity in 2002 did 214 million worldwide. The second came out in 2004, did 290 million worldwide. And the Bourne Ultimate in 2007 did 442 million. So it's actually interesting as the sequels came out, the series did more and more sales, which is very interesting. A lot of the times in the other trilogy, it was kind of the opposite. The last one kind of not, it was the least well performing, but this one was the total opposite, which is okay. But the total trilogy did close to $1 billion worldwide. The Bourne trilogy proved audience wanted smart, grounded action with morale weight, reshaping spy films for the next generation and leaving a lasting imprint on Hollywood storytelling. And that's exactly why Bourne is part of my list, because I think it did shift and really showed that spy movies and CIA and all of this, and it could be really told in a way that was interesting for the viewer. And I think that gives them the right to be on the list, because but like the success of Bourne definitely paved the way for spy like movie or projects that came after it. Listen, and these movies are not for everybody, let me say that as well. These spy like movies, even the Bourne trilogy, it's not for everybody. I don't recommend it for everybody. It's definitely for people that enjoy that type of cinema. Like, they'll eat this shit up. But like, if you're really like, I would say superhero-ish, I'm not sure you will enjoy this trilogy. I don't know. I just cannot. I say all that to say this. I have to emphasize this movie is not for everybody. This trilogy is not for everybody, and it's not. And it tells a story, and the way it tell it might not be interesting to a lot of people, but it changed the game. It made a lot of money, and it really put Matt Damon on the map. I don't even know Matt Damon this early for anything else but these movies. Now, people might kill me who are Matt Damon fans. Like I said, I don't really care for him as an actor, but yeah, whatever. The Bourne series, good overall in its totality. It did kind of submit the spy-like genre. It really did say, hey, you can make money telling a story like this and really give a message about, listen, there is corruption and in all levels of corruption. You need to know who you are at the end of the day so you can make a well decision about if you're going to be loyal to a industry that is corrupt, or are you going to be loyal to who you are at the end of the day. And that's kind of how I took the movies personally. That's the messaging to me. People be like, no, that's not it. Hey, that's what I took from the movies, and the why I like the movie because of that question that you asked. You know, a lot of people working 9 to 5, they do just a bare minimum, just because. And there's some people that are just gun ho, systematic. Yeah, they're like, yeah, I live for my job. And there's other people looking at them like, but do you live for yourself or you just live for your job? Because baby, your job could replace you. You'll be looking like the people at Ubisoft right now that's just woke up today and didn't have no job. So it's kind of that mind frame, that I hold this trilogy in mind. But yeah, this is my last pick, the Bourne trilogy. Have you watched these movies? Have you seen? Do you like them? Do you even like Matt Damon? Because even with me not caring for Matt Damon, I still like these movies.
The first movie, The Bourne Identity, to me, it was a slow burn. He washed up on the dude, I think on the water. They put him in the boat. He had amnesia, and I think this was kind of around the time like that amnesia trope was really starting to get played out with a lot of films and games. And then he went to the bank, and then it started whooping people's ass with the martial artists and the money and the multiple identities. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it kind of hooked me. And I think you are correct. This probably did make Matt Damon, because I can't remember him or anything significant of him before these films, but they don't make spy thrillers or suspense movies like this. You have the Bourne movies, you have your James Bonds, and you have the Mission Impossibles. And that's kind of it. You really don't have much. And they
Well, you
made
have
these three
that
films.
one series. What's that?
Hmm?
The Kingsman. Yeah, that was a little
Oh yeah,
spyish.
yeah. Oh man, you know about those. Okay, yeah, you do have those, but those are I wouldn't put
Comedy
them in the same.
themed.
Yeah, they were a little more on the lighthearted. The Boring series, to me, one of the things that sold me was he was a CIA operative. As far as James Bond, that's MI6, so that's the UK government. Mission Impossible, I don't know what the fuck they were. I can't remember. I ain't seen a Mission Impossible in so long. And
Mhm.
Tom Cruise and he sit his old ass down. But anywho, what sold me on these were the action, real action suspense movies. And this seems like some shit that probably could have been real, because we do know the CIA does some fuck shit. It does. They made these three movies. I think they made one more with the guy that played Hawkeye in the Marvel movies. Then I think they made one more or something. I don't know, but the trilogy is what matters. The other ones were just I like these. I really did. And then even the box for the third one says the best action picture in decades. When it seems like it was trying to go toe to toe with Mission Impossible, trying to do something different, more suspense action with a story, other than just, hey, it's just some shit happening. But I enjoyed them. Matt Damon now, it's kind of a little long in the tooth. He's done some shit to me. It's a little questionable. I thought they were overall good films. I enjoyed them. Like I said, the first one was a little bit of a slow burn, but it turned out to be good things. I don't know if anyone knows this. Did you ever play the video game that was based off this? Oh man, it goes back to what I was talking about before about movie tie-in. I'll take it back. It was mediocre. We'll go there, because I think it's a cult classic now, and it's like $50, 360 PS3 game, and it's like, dude, no. But yeah, it was a very interesting game. I'm sorry, interesting movie, and I enjoyed them. I don't remember so much how it ended. My memory is a little fuzzy. I'm thinking of the third one, but it probably could be the second one with all the action and shit he was going on. But and then, like you said too, you don't get a lot of these. much anymore. Even James Bond series. The last we heard of that was with the Daniel Craig films, and they're still up in arms with trying to figure out where to take the series as a whole, and then who will be up to play mantle of James Bond. And the way Daniel Craig was kind of talking shit about it, I don't know if any actor wants to have their whole career tied to that for X amount of films. But no, I enjoyed them. They were good. Another film trilogy. If you were there when it came out, it was great. But I do believe these hold up to even still today. I won't say modern standards because things have changed, but even today, they're fucking great movies. And then Matt Damon just had a recent movie come out that we'll talk about another time. Netflix movie. So these
Yeah,
were good.
the rig or the yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Rip, yeah, whatever the hell that. Well, it's a police term, but yeah. But shout out, very good films. Check them out. That's about all I got for these.
Yep, and that wraps up the movie trilogy showdown. We each picked 5 in no particular order. So let us know down in the comments how you feel about any of the picks, or if you would have picked something different, and let us know what you would pick and why, and actually, if it is better than any of the ones that we picked, 'cause we each picked 5. Not necessarily did we factor in box office. Mostly it was an emotional attachment to a certain series. But let us know if you do change something, why? What did it do performance wise, and what kind of cultural impact did the trilogy have? But let us know all that in the comments down below. But that's a wrap for us on the trilogy showdown.
Are you an architect?